Not the TV guide.
Not the TV guide.
Beth, what are we doing today?
We are talking about Supernatural, the fourth and hopefully final part.
Yeah, I know. Amanda, what season are we covering next?
Season 13.
Yeah, unlucky for some. Now, obviously, we just people have covered parts 1 to 3. Yeah, but at the end of part 12, they did a bloodletting basically when they killed off an awful amount of episodes, right? Characters. And oh yes, a few things on season 13 I want to talk about as well. Because this was the first one I watched in real time with Amanda at the time. Now, obviously itself and the 13th season of Supernatural was premiered on October the 12th, 2017. Man, did you realise how long ago this was?
I know. It doesn't feel that long ago.
No, it doesn't. And concluded on May the 17th, 2018. This season consisted of 23 episodes and was the second season. Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer are showrunners. Now, there's a few episodes I want to specifically talk about here this season. And I'll be intrigued to see if Amanda's case, she remembers these happened, and Beth remembers as well. Obviously, there was Gerard Jensen in the leads with Misha Collins, yes, somehow coming back from the dead as Cassiel later on. Featured an introduction of Alex Calver as Jack and Mark Pellegrino, obviously, as Lucifer again as well. Also features special guest stars as Jim Beaver as Bobby Singer from Another World, Felicity Day as well as Charlie Bradbury from Another World. Do you two remember anyone called Loretta Devine in
No.
this, who played Mrs. Missouri Mosley?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She was in an earlier season. Yeah.
That's fine, okay. That said, she didn't. There's a lot of people in this episode season as well. A lot of guest stars, and there's a couple of really good episodes I was talking about here as well. So, right, Beth, how did you feel about season 13 after season 12 with the bloodbath?
Yeah, I remember I quite liked season 13. Still not my favorite, not as strong as earlier series, but I thought there was some strong episodes, and I really enjoyed getting to see a little bit more of the Wayward sisters as well. Like I think the women in the show did not get used enough. I think they had some great female characters which they could have done a lot more with, I felt. And I think we did see a little bit more of them in this series. So I quite enjoyed it for that reason.
Yeah, now we'll come on to Wayward Sister in a second, but yeah, I agree with you completely in that. You could argue they missed the boat with that one, too, slightly, so, but that's just politics for you. Okay, we'll start off with Amanda here. Amanda, season 13, what is your favourite episode?
Scooby Natural.
Yeah, now, I'm presuming, Beth, this must have been up in your favourite episodes of this season as well.
It was really good. To be fair, I feel like I'm not as big a fan of Scooby Natural as people might think. Like it is a really good episode, but I know there are some people that are absolutely obsessed with this episode and just think it's like the best episode that ever happened. I wouldn't go that far, but I do really like it.
Now, it's fascinating. It is a fascinating episode because I know it took them about 2.5 years to do this episode. It did. It's because the nature of the beast of animation at that level, it wasn't something they could pull straight away off. And I've got to tell you, Beth, because we watched this live at the time, were you aware that at the time in it when they did it, Misha Collins was coming into it as Cassiel?
Um, I don't know. I don't think I was actually.
No, I full well remember Amanda's face when we knew this one was coming up, and she watched it, and the way her eyes lit up as soon as Misha Collins came. Which is that true, Amanda?
Yeah,
And I'm going to ask you straight away, Amanda. Is this your favourite episode of the season?
yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was straight away. That's why I knew it. As soon as I saw it, then I thought it's got to be Amanda's favourite episode straight away. This, Amanda, what memories do you have of this episode before we go back to
The
Beth?
one thing I really love is just like how kind Dean is because like he realizes that he's going to traumatize them if they think it's a real ghost. So he sort of plays along and lets them think that it wasn't a real ghost after all, just to sort of save their innocence.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. That because and you think about really the way he did it. He came in, didn't he? And Beth, how do you feel when he went into that? He made a move on Daphne straight away, didn't he?
I thought it was really clever actually because Sam kind of had a bit of a thing with Velma, and then obviously Dean kind of like fancied Daphne, and I just thought that made perfect sense in terms of like the brothers and the kind of people that they are. So I thought that was good. I might be making this up, but it might not be true, or it might have just been a joke or something. But I read somewhere that Jensen Ackles actually did the voice of Velma in this episode.
Really?
Yeah, I
I'll
don't know
have
if
to look it
that's
up. I
true.
hope it's true.
I hope it's true.
I'm going to read.
I've read this somewhere. I don't know if it's true. I can't remember where I saw it. Um, but I think there was some kind of interview about it as well where he mentioned it. But I don't know. I might just be misunderstanding or making it up. I don't know.
No, it wasn't, unfortunately. It was
Oh,
voiced
sad.
by Kate, oh my God, McCary or something, right?
Ah, sad. Oh well.
I
Don't know
know,
where I
that's
got
why.
that from.
So, yeah, but so the voice, people wonder about that Scooby Natural episode, obviously. It's, yeah, at the time and at that point in question, the four current actors who appeared in Scooby Natural reprised their roles for that episode. That's why. So basically, yeah. And it was like, so they got all the proper people in it to do it, basically. It was just, what got me was, just what always got me was in this. And I loved the way they teased it out with Cassiel. And you had somebody in the background, didn't they? And you're thinking, is that the monster? Then it was actually Cassiel came right into it. And then I remember you told me at the time, Mandy, you said straight away you knew that Misha Collins was not going to be able to turn this episode down.
Yeah,
Yeah, and did you both like the fact when they did all this what the Scooby Doo chase thing, didn't they? And they all seemed
yeah,
to go absolutely mad for about 5 or 10 minutes, didn't it? It's probably one of my favourite episodes of the season, and it's the only one I remember Amanda doing, Beth, and I'm going to embarrass her here. When she loved it that much, we watched it on a Saturday around at her flat in Cheetham Hill. She made me watch it again the day after. True or false, Amanda?
yeah. And I think we've seen it again afterwards as well, haven't we? Because you said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind watching it again," so we did.
I think it might be the case that one. So, but what did you think, Beth? When you saw that? Was that a sort of episode you could rewatch again? Was it? It was so fun.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was really good. I mean, it was a really clever like I mean there's universes like there's shows and universes that it would have like made more sense for them to cross over with, but I feel like Scooby-Doo was kind of like a really obvious one for them to do a crossover with because like you can just imagine that Dean and Sam like I always like to think it must have been one of the only shows that they could kind of agree on growing up, you know, like when Dean's a little bit older than Sam and they probably had different tastes in TV in the motel rooms, and then that was probably one of the only TV shows that they could agree on. So I love the idea that, you know, it must have played like a big part of their childhood, obviously with like hunting monsters as well. They must have really related to it as children. So like I really liked kind of that idea of letting them sort of live out that childhood fantasy in a way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Amanda, have you got anything else you want to add to what Beth said there?
No,
I do agree with you both completely. It was absolutely phenomenally funny episode that was. So now, obviously, we have to then go on to topics, obviously, like worst episodes of the season. Now, Amanda, was there an episode you really disliked in this series?
yeah, I should have liked this one, but I didn't. And it was Exodus, and it's when they get all the people from the other world into our world. But it just felt a bit like it was taunting me because it wasn't really my Bobby and my Charlie. It was just like an alternative version, and it never really felt like the actual characters.
Mm.
What do you think, Beth? Is there an episode you would disliked in this series?
Um, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I struggle to think of like specific episodes that I didn't like in the later series because I wasn't a fan of quite a lot of the episodes in many of the later series. So I know what I know what Amanda means, like the bringing in of like parallel universe versions of characters that we've kind of loved and lost was a bit odd because it almost kind of felt like they were trying to basically bring the characters back because they knew that they'd kind of killed them a bit too early. I think Supernatural is quite guilty of this. They do have a habit of killing off characters before it's the right time, and they've still got use for these characters, and then they kind of end up creating a sort of replacement character later on because they realize that actually that character still kind of fulfills a role. They still need a character like that, but they've already killed that character off. So now they've got to create somebody else that's kind of similar. So a prime example of this is Ellen back in series 5, because while I totally understand why Joe died and why Joe had to die, because it was the whole idea of, you know, Ellen's husband, Joe's dad, was basically killed because John Winchester, their dad, kind of betrayed him, and Ellen was really worried about her daughter, you know, following in her father's footsteps and being screwed over by the Winchesters. So it was kind of obvious that Joe had to die because of the Winchesters, because it was a really tragic circle. But it didn't. But I wish that Ellen had survived, because it would have been even more tragic if she had to live on without her daughter. And I would have loved the idea of, you know, her sort of hating Sam and Dean for a while because she lost her daughter because of them, just like she lost her husband because of their father. And then basically they killed Ellen off, and then they kind of replaced her with Jodie, who, much as I love Jodie, she was basically an Ellen replacement. I mean, they're both really good characters, but they fill the same function basically of like the mother role. So they could have kept Ellen on, and, you know, in a similar way, they killed Charlie too soon, I think. Charlie still could have been a really like useful character in the show, and they kind of brought her back because they realized, you know, oh, she's a great character, we kind of killed her off too soon. And similarly with like Bobby, I mean, why did you need to bring Bobby back? Because we've kind of seen enough of him anyway. We've kind of had these like snippets of, you know, episodes where he kind of comes back anyway in various ways, and it's kind of, it felt a bit like, yeah, so I know what Amanda means. I think that felt like a bit, almost a bit sort of disrespectful to those characters in a way, to bring back an alternate version of them that's them but isn't them, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Amanda, have you got anything else you want to add about that?
No.
No, I agree completely on that, Beth. So now, obviously, I think we've covered everything on this season, but I have to ask you both about the second aborted spin-off attempt here with the Wayward Sisters. Now, I remember watching this episode live with you at the time, Amanda, and this was it where they took a mid-season break, didn't they? And you ended up with Dean and Sam stuck in the alternative reality, and all
Yeah.
the girls obviously come in on the spin-off episode to go and rescue them. And I was absolutely gutted they didn't actually do this as a spin-off, because I thought it was good enough. I thought it had the legs for it as well.
I think it came down with some money. And if I remember right as well, I think the originals got the spin-off instead. Was it Legacies or something? I never watched that one.
Yeah, I think it was the same. I think you're right, but I think they had the option of one or the other, and they went with Legacy, the original spin-off. Now, did you ever watch Legacy, Beth?
No, I watched the originals, but I never actually watched Legacies. But funny enough, I was actually going to start it at some point soon, because I've started rewatching Vampire Diaries with one of my friends, because she's never seen it. So that's kind of made me want to watch Legacies. So, but no, I've never actually watched it.
You'll have to tell us then what you think of it. Yeah, but what did you think to the Wayward Sisters, Beth? Do you think they should have done it as a spin-off?
Absolutely. I think it would have been a brilliant spin-off. I think they underuse the female characters in Supernatural so much. If there's one criticism I could have of this show, like, why are they so afraid of doing female characters? Because the evidence is they can do them really well. They did it with I mean, Charlie was a brilliant, brilliant character. And they could have brought her into the spin-off, because they could have had the parallel universe version of her in the spin-off. I mean, I know it wouldn't have been the original her, which is a shame, but they could have had a version of her in the spin-off. And she's such a brilliant kind of representative female character. Because I mean, I saw myself, like, as a nerdy woman, I saw myself so much in Charlie. Like, you know, not in her computer hacking skills because I'm absolutely awful with technology, but in her sort of like, you know, she's been to Comic-Con, she's obsessed with Harry Potter, and you know, she's an uber nerd. She did a live long and prosper Star Trek salute at one point. So she's such a great character, and people like Claire and Jodie, they're such brilliant female characters, and we barely get to see any of them in the show. And I really feel like a spin-off was almost necessary in a way to kind of develop those characters. It would have been almost like it was a spin-off that almost wrote itself. So it's such a shame that they didn't do it.
Yeah, no, I'm not completely the same as that one. You with that one there, Amanda. How did you feel when you first found out about the Wayward Sisters was not being commissioned?
I was really upset because I was looking forward to it. When we saw that episode, I thought it'd be like a really good spin-off, much better than the other one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you both on that. It was just one of the frustrating things that was because yeah, they could have easily got 4 or 5 really good, strong female characters there together, and it is what it is anyway. So okay. Now, have I covered everything on this? Have you both got anything else you need to mention? I've lost track.
Um,
I've lost track of time
I
in this
wanted to
episode.
mention something. I don't know if Beth will know this because she's not watched Buffy yet. But in the last season of Buffy, Felicia Day, who plays Charlie, is actually in the last season of Buffy.
Oh wow. Oh nice.
I didn't know that, but again, can't help you there on that one.
Yeah,
So
I'll make Andy sit down and watch all 7 seasons of Buffy.
people are wondering now. I'm doing this at Amanda. I'm staring at her like thinking, new. When we asked Grant to come on, the people are wondering to come to this 4 season epic with us about Supernatural, he put a meme up in our group chat saying no, quite simply. And when we asked him about, there will be a future one called Buffy the Vampire Slayer when it's watched all 7 seasons, maybe Angel as well. When I'm going to host it for these two ladies, of course. When Grant, Amanda, how did Grant react when we told him this?
I think he's a secret closet Buffy fan underneath it all.
We're going to struggle there anyway. Let's move on. Okay, okay, ladies, what are you going to mark season 13? Beth.
I'm gonna give it a 7, because it's one of the better ones of the later series, I think. There's some really good episodes. Like I liked Tombstone was another very important episode for Destiel development. Cass has just like come back from the dead, and we get to see Dean being nerdy about cowboys, and Cass is Cass is Dean's cowboy, puts a cowboy hat on, and Dean is obviously very enamored with Cass in this cowboy hat. There is absolutely no denying that Dean is very, very in love with Cass in this cowboy hat. I'm like, why do you like seeing Cass in the cowboy hat, Dean? Because you clearly really like seeing Cass in the cowboy hat. And it's like, it was just a funny episode for that, because I'm like, you are in a relationship. Oh my God, get over yourselves already. Like, it's.
Amanda.
I give it 7.5 out of 10.
Now, as one thing I've forgotten to ask you both here, obviously there's only been 3 seasons, we could take our time on this a bit more. How did you both feel about the character of Jack coming into season 13? I should have asked this before. Beth.
Yeah, I liked Jack. I thought he was a good character. I think they maybe could have introduced the whole like idea of him sort of becoming like the new gods, or like being as powerful as God, like a bit earlier, because we knew that Nephilims were powerful, and like very powerful beings. That's why they're like forbidden. But I think they could have sort of developed that storyline maybe a little bit more somehow. But I thought he was a good character, and I really like the idea that he's kind of again, they are literally raising a child together. I mean, he is literally Dean and Cass's son. They've got a child together at this point, and yet we don't get to see them actually in a relationship. But yeah, no, they are just like, they are basically just Jack's dads, and I love it because they're like, you know, they're just raising their little Nephilim child together, and it's I love the dynamic between the three of them. So I thought Jack was a really good character for that reason as well, because it kind of almost completed the family unit, because they've got this kind of child that they've got to look after, and it had to be a supernatural child, didn't it? It couldn't be a normal human child. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Amanda, fan fiction time for you now, before you get into season 14 very quickly. How do you think Crowley would have reacted to Jack?
We probably would have tried to use him for his own means.
Corruption is the word, isn't it? So yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, corrupt him. Yeah.
yeah, that I agree completely there. So it's a shame that could have been a really good storyline, seeing what Crowley would have been like round him to what
Or
he's done. So
fighting over custody.
oh yeah, that
instead
one.
of instead of the whole thing of him trying to like manipulate Amara and stuff back in series 11, could have had him do the same thing but with Jack. It would have made a lot more sense, because like I don't know why Amara even turned into a child randomly and in the
Hmm.
first place. So that would have been a much better storyline.
Yeah, no, I agree with you both completely with that one. So, but hey, let's go on to season 14. The 14th season of Supernatural premiered on October the 11th, 2018, and concluded on the 25th of April, 2019. This was only 20 episodes this season, it was, and the third season with Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer as showrunner. The season follows Sam and Dean, who with Jack and Crowley then, Jack and Cassiel tried to take down the Archangel Michael from another world and learn something bigger is at hand. This obviously features Gerard Jensen, obviously Alexander Calvert as Jack, Misha Collins as Crowley, Cassiel. Sorry, ignore me. Mark Pegrino comes back as Nick Dash Lucifer. A big difference here. And it also features, doesn't it, Amanda, as well? Who came in, and I'm asking you, Norman and Beth, who came back for the 300th episode this season?
Ooh, good question. I don't know actually.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan came back as John Winchester.
Oh, was
Oh
this
yeah.
when they had the whole family thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, DJ Quell's back as Gareth again, and Jim Beavers it is, his seasonal appearance as some kind of Bobby singer, right? But yeah, that's why. So, Beth, I'm going to start with you this time. What were your memories of season 14 like?
Um, yeah, I think at this point, yeah, unfortunately, I was starting to get really. I mean, I still enjoyed it because I couldn't not enjoy this show. I just think it's such a brilliant show, whatever they do with it. But I think at this point, I was definitely starting to, I was kind of lagging a bit, sort of glad that I was nearing the end because I don't think it was a very strong series. I mean, I like that they finally had Dean, becoming Michael's vessel, because that's kind of been building since series 5. It was nice that we got to see Dean finally be the Michael sword, as he's called, Michael's vessel. But it was like with a parallel universe, evil version of Michael. It wasn't even with the Michael that we know. It was kind of like it. I mean, I understood what they were trying to do again, but it kind of was a little bit of a letdown for me. I liked certain aspects of it. I did like I did like the return of God. I did like the Chuck's return and kind of the revelation that he's, actually kind of evil and has been manipulating their lives this whole time. I love the idea that, they are characters in his story and he's making them suffer and go through all of this stuff for their entertainment. I thought that was really good. That was a really good twist. Like, I think there's even a scene where Dean kind of says to it, I think it's in series 14, but it might be series 15 that I don't know, because it kind of happened towards the end of series 14. But I think there's a scene where Dean's kind of talking to him and he's like, because this isn't a game for us, this is our lives, and he's been writing their lives the whole time, basically writing them into all of these scenarios for his entertainment. So it's kind of, I thought that was really clever. So I did like that aspect of it, that twist. But I think the series as a whole, it kind of felt like it was dragging on a bit. It was kind of like, all right, wrap it up now. It's like we've had 15 series. It's coming to an end now. It's sort of, well, 14 series. It needs to start wrapping up now.
Amanda.
Yeah, my best episode was Damaged Goods because I like the fact that you see another side of Nick as the vessel. Because back when Lucifer wanted to be his vessel, he comes across as like a tormented father and husband that's lost his child and wife. And then in this episode, you find out it's not quite like that and he's not as innocent as you think.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. It does they do something really interesting with that. Because you full well, I do remember this again, where like they show different levels of it. It gives the actor, I think Marco Pecorino, a chance to really show some good acting chops. Like, because he obviously because he's a good actor him anyway. After seeing him in 13 Reasons Why, he showed it how good an actor he is. His character was just something doing different in that. I remember repeating myself. I kept thinking, "Oh, come on, go Lucifer in that series, kill a few people," but she didn't. So, yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a good point, though. Beth,
Yeah, I'm trying to think what my kind of strongest episode was. I did really like, to be fair, I did really like seeing their dad come back. I did really like the family reunion. Because I thought it almost needed to be done as a kind of two-parter. Because they kind of there was like a reason why he came back, and there was and it sort of created this parallel universe where things were different because he came back or whatever. And I felt like it almost needed 2 episodes to fully explore that, and it kind of needed to be a two-parter for me. It felt a little bit rushed, but I did really enjoy the sort of dynamic between, the boys and their dad, and what it's like for them kind of seeing him again. Because obviously Dean in particular has done a lot of character growth. He's come a long way since losing his dad all those years ago. And it almost took him losing his dad to sort of find out who he really was as a person, because he was kind of, up until
great.
then, he'd kind of been living in his dad's shadow. So it's very interesting to see sort of how he responds to sort of seeing this, slightly mixed figure again, because I think they've got very mixed feelings about their dad. Because I mean, obviously they loved him, but there's no denying that he was kind of potentially sort of abusive in some ways. So it's kind of, or at the very least sort of negligent as a parent in some ways. So it's interesting seeing them having got older and wiser and come to that realization. It's quite interesting seeing them sort of confronted with him again, and having to deal with those feelings of it'd be interesting if he'd stayed for a bit longer. I think that's why I wanted it to be a two-parter, so they could really dig into that. But yeah.
I think you mean like he did what I think it was almost like. And I remember at the time when I wanted Amanda's opinion on this, it was a rare element of happiness for them before
Yeah,
everything
that
went
really lasts though, does it?
not in supernatural. It was almost like they were building up this high of happiness, but things go absolutely tits up quite soon, and it did go pretty mental. That's why. But yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a very good point, that Beth, indeed. So, Amanda, is there anything you want to add about that? 'Cause I agree with Beth on that. Really, it's a crucial episode, that 300th one.
Yeah, in some ways, so it's like if the dad had stayed with them, it's like it'd be a different dynamic. So it might even be a different show. So,
Yeah,
and it's
no.
better in some ways that it sort of worked out the way it did.
Yeah, no, I agree with Scotch's before. No, it's a good, great point indeed, that one. So, right, obviously, I've not asked yet about the weakest episodes of the season, Amanda.
Okay, so mine's Stranger in a Strange Land, and this is where Michael takes over Dean's body, and Sam's I get tries to track down Dean, and just by this point, I was just getting a bit fed up of Michael.
And people wondering, this was the first episode in the season as well.
It
It
just
doesn't.
felt like they'd overdone it with Michael in all the other seasons. It's like maybe I just remember it more than it was, but it just felt overdone by that point.
Yeah, that's the point, don't you? I think it does. It's Beth said the same thing here. Like I think dangerous like the supernatural after a while is, and you said this in one of the early episodes, Beth, was after a while they're just running around in circles, kept bringing people back all the time, and
Mm.
as soon as you did the overworld thing, it's almost like the ultimate universe of Marvel, where you can bring back people from other universes that have been killed several times before, and yeah, I think it's overdone. Yeah, it's a good point, Amanda. A good point all round that. Beth.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because I don't really remember that many individual episodes. It all kind of blurs into one a little bit. I think there was one episode where they met or was this no. Was it they find like the Garden of Eden or something, or am I thinking of series
I think
15?
that was when they were looking for God. Yeah.
Yeah. Um
And the guy that looked after the garden, I've forgotten his name now.
mm. Oh no, 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 I'm not talking in series 5. Talking about
Oh, right.
like but yeah, I can't really remember that clearly, but it does kind of blur into one a bit for me this series. But I think there was yeah, I think I agree with Amanda. Like Dean constantly being taken over by Michael was a bit repetitive. So yeah, probably say that one as well.
Yeah, that's the point. So that's the point. So now I do remember really liking the ending of season 15 with Chuck being an absolute wanker and then pulling a load of zombies up at them both in the graveyard. Now, obviously, Beth, you could have jumped straight into season 15. I remember seeing Amanda's face when we did that. It was like, what the hell are they going to do to get out of this?
Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it felt like a bit of a cop out when they eventually came back.
Yeah. How did you feel, Beth, when you watched that when he threw a hissy fit at him, did he? And then basically
Yeah,
pulled a load of zombies up. I thought, is this a homage to The Walking Dead time?
yeah. I mean, I think it was quite. I think I did actually quite enjoy it because it kind of felt like quite oh here we go sort of finale time, we're getting into the real battle now, we're getting into like the sort of the king battle, when you're in like in a video game where you finally get to like the final round and you finally take on
Yeah.
like the real sort of big bad. It felt a bit like that. I was like, they're properly going up against God now, so I did quite enjoy it. But then yeah, I think series 15 when it started, when it came back, just felt like a little bit of a letdown. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
shouldn't have been able to get out of that so
Rowena
easy.
died though, which was Rowena like sacrificed herself for them, which
Mm.
was really sad.
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to that shortly, won't we, in season
Yeah.
15? So, yeah. Right. Okay. Well, I'll let you both mark it. And Beth, what are you going to give season 14 out of 10?
Give it a 5.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point because I remember some good episodes coming up in season 15. So I do agree with you in that. Amanda.
I'm going to give it 7.5.
Yeah, well, it's a fair point because like season 15 is the finale. Now, obviously, with season 15 coming up, this was the one that proved a bit controversial, really. This did in a few ways. Obviously, it was this 15th and final season of Supernatural premiered on the CW network on October the 10th, 2019. It was initially set to conclude on May the 18th, 2020. COVID-19 buggered that one up after May the 23rd, 2020. So the season resumed airing on the 20th of October 2020, and the series finale aired on November the 19th, 2020. Now, there was 20 episodes in this season, and it was the fourth season with Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer as showrunner. And the season follows Sam, Dean, and Cassiel's battle against God, who'd been manipulating events in their life, including their friends, families, and allies. Angered by their decision to fight him, God jumpstarts the end of everything in creation. In season 20, we have obviously Sam and Dean again, Alexandra Calvert as, oh, I've forgotten about this, as Jack and Belgorner, wasn't it? Who's a
Oh,
demon that
yeah, it
is,
was like a demon wanting his
yeah,
eyes burned out. Yeah.
yeah. And Misha Collins, of course, with Jim Beaver, of course, comes in it again. DJ Qualls in it against Gareth, and Mark Pellegrini was Lucifer was in it, and Rowena was in it a couple of times, and he had the man from Letters in it, and I've forgotten Amaria was in it actually as well, and the Swallow came back in it as well, and there's a lot of people in this series, and that one, and also as well. Yes, there was an episode. Did you ever watch a series called Leverage, Beth?
Um, no, I don't actually.
Watch it. Okay, Leverage itself, and it's also it's out a spin-off series now called Leverage Redemption. The finale season that's due on soon as well. There was an actor in that called Christian Kane, and he's a known country rock singer as well. He comes into one episode in this season, and you get him and Dean on stage doing a duet.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought then. Yeah, I thought that was a really good. That was probably my favourite episode, apart from spoilers we'll come to shortly. But Amanda, what's your memories of season 50?
My memory is Castiel confessing his love for Dean and
Yeah,
sacrificing himself.
that was it would take I know Beth's got hands on her heart now, but it was an absolutely incredible bit of acting that was, and it was like. I know they was talking about, if you see the script, bringing him back for the last episode, weren't they? When Dean was up in heaven, but they couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts and, well, COVID. And because they couldn't, it was still a fantastic way for him to leave, it was. Oh my God.
I was screaming at the TV screen to Dean, going, "Say it back, say it back."
Oh,
Yeah, you can't beat that for possibly the best episode in this season, challenged you. That takes some beating, that does. So, oh,
yeah. I had it. Unfortunately, I did have it. I did have it spoiled. I knew that it was coming. I knew like I'd had the spoiler, but I wasn't prepared for how much I was gonna like burst at that speech. Like me, I watched it with my housemate. We started watching it together, and I'd watched it like with her pretty much from the beginning. And we were watching it, and like she'd already seen it, but we like years ago when it first aired, and we were watching it, and both of us were just sat there like clinging to each other, and then we were literally just there like like somebody give Misha Collins an Oscar, somebody give him an Oscar. Like it was just such a like, oh, that was a phenomenal piece of acting. I think that Misha Collins is more talented than anyone gives him credit for, because that was a phenomenal bit of acting, like on his part. I thought it was just one of the most beautiful pieces of writing as well that I've seen. It blew me away.
yeah, no, it did me as well. It's like I was sat there thinking, I thought, my God, I thought, unbelievable. It was, yeah, and I presume Beth, that's your favourite episode of the season as well, is it?
Yeah, not because it's a great
Yeah,
episode, just because of that.
yeah, that scene is
Yeah.
phenomenal, and it was just that scene itself probably gives. If I'd marked it, it bumped a few marks on it for me straight away. But yeah, oh my God, yeah. Now I have to ask you both, unfortunately, what was your least favourite episode in the season?
For me, it was the last episode. I know, like in some ways, after all those years and stuff, you've got to have like a sort of goodbye episode, and that's what it was. But I'm just can't get over the disappointment because of the COVID and the lockdown and everything, and it wasn't what it was always going to be, and they had to sort of cut back on it.
Mm.
You obviously had the distance to watch that, Beth, and I remember watching Amanda, and I remember seeing her face on that, and she was really gutted over that. She was so.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. It was it wasn't the best episode. And I also thought it was a bit strange because the episode before it, episode 19, felt more like a finale
Yeah,
than that. I mean, me and my
yeah,
my friend Naomi, we watched it, and we were both we watched like episodes 18, 19, and 20 kind of in a row. And I remember we watched episode 19, and then which is the one before the finale, and we both thought that felt like the finale. We were both like, why did they need to why did they need to do another episode? Why did they need to carry it on? And I I mean, I got that they wanted one of the brothers to die. I get that they felt like Dean had to die, and it did make sense, but I just think they could have done it so much better. And obviously I get, COVID and everything kind of got in the way, but Shoshana, who plays what's her name? Um oh God, Eileen. She
Mm.
lives near where they were filming. So even with the COVID restrictions, they could have got her back to be with Sam in the final episode. Even with the COVID restrictions, they could have showed her as the woman that Sam ended up with. And instead they just had like a blurry figure in the background. They didn't bother to show us properly show us the face of like whoever it is that Sam ended up with and started a family with. And they could have easily, she lived in the area, they could have easily got Shoshana back to just shoot from a distance. Because she's in the distance anyway in that scene.
Yeah.
Sam's apparent future wife. So they could have got her there and just had a shot of her smiling in the distance to show that he ends up with, with her. And similarly, they could have, I mean, they got Jim Beaver back to do the scene with Dean in heaven. So I don't know why they couldn't have got Misha Collins back to do a little reunion between Sam and Dean in heaven. And, I just think, Bobby actually says, oh, Cass helped, Jack rebuild heaven. So implying that Cass is there in heaven, he survived, he's there. And I'm kind of like, well, where is he then? He's like, we needed the reunion, we needed the happy reunion between Dean and Cass, and the happy ending. It could have been beautiful if it could have been a happy ending for Dean if he ended up with Cass in heaven. You wouldn't even have had to do anything major. All you would have had to do is show them like holding hands in the distance or something, or anything would have been, it just would have been better. I don't know.
Yeah, it struck me as a bit as an odd one. So, Amanda, is there anything else you want to add about that? I've got a bit of trivia gossip for the pair of you on
No.
the last episode, actually. Apparently, on the episode at the end of the season, where they reunited, Sam and Dean reunite in heaven on the bridge.
Yeah.
This is meant to be a version of the bridge that was first seen in the pilot episode, apparently.
All right.
So, trying to be low. But I did like the end. You're right. I didn't like the last episode much at all. I liked it when they panned out where everybody waving bye to you. And not just obviously the actors, but obviously the crew as well. They give you that sort of team feel. But you're right, it was just one of those things, really, I suppose, wasn't it? Where you wonder what they could have done if they'd didn't have the restrictions in place. So it kind of underpinned it a bit, really. So, one bit I didn't like in it was, if you go back to the beginning of the season 15, was what happened to Rowena, if you both remember. Because they killed her off, didn't they, a couple of episodes in?
Yeah.
And then they brought her back, was it 2 episodes later, was it? When she
I
comes,
felt like she'd sort of redeemed herself when it sort of took that away when they brought her back.
yeah, it underpinned it. They had to come back, didn't they? With a load of hunky men round her or something, wasn't it? Oh, I can't remember. Am I imagining things there? But yeah, it was
It
somewhat,
sounds like her.
but it underpinned it the way they used it, to be honest with you. And I think that's why it was just a bit of a strange bit of writing that they should have left it at that.
Mm.
But I know, just my thoughts, and it was a weird one, to be honest with you. So they did a couple of things in that were a bit odd in that season for me, to be honest with you. That was one of them. So, but again, you had Christine Kane come a bit of leverage as a country rock singer, and and another hunter that Dean ended up having to kill later on, a friend of his, and I loved that bit for me. So, but yeah, I'm not here to mark it. So, right, okay. Before we come on to the finale bit of this, Beth, what are you going to give this out of 10?
Again, I think I'm going to give it a 5 because it was a bit of a mess of a series. I won't lie. It was not that impressive, the majority of it, unfortunately.
Amanda.
I'm going to give it an 8.
Oh, well, I said, fight, 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 fight. Now, I have to ask you, Beth, obviously, watching all that from beginning to end. Amanda's watched, well, big chunks of it several times, so I'll ask you separate, Amanda, in a minute. How did it feel by the end of it? Were you exhausted?
I was a bit because I'd been it was about to be taken off Amazon Prime, so I'd had to binge the last like 3 or 4 series because I think I was on series 11 when I found out that it was leaving Prime in a month, and I was like,
Oh,
oh, I can do 4 series in a month. It's
oh,
doable. I can do it. I can do it. So I had to binge the final 4 series like properly binge it. So I was a bit exhausted by the end. I won't lie,
oh, yeah, but yeah, but I would have been knackered after that. God.
but.
Now, Amanda's case, I know you've watched the first 10 seasons several times, haven't you?
Yeah.
I know the memory's a bit more vague than the later ones. How did you feel when we got to the end of it a couple of years ago? Seriously.
I was emotional in the last episode, but not so much for the content, just for the fact it was over and they sort of went out of your way to try and make you cry and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Every kid does it. They get to that stage. If they obviously didn't they get told it was finishing on the 15th season, and didn't they? Or was it the case of you know someone past
I
Beth Amanda?
I
Did
think when
they
the
did
14th season came out, they announced that the 15th would be the last.
oh, that was it. That was it, yeah. So and it was well tell you what, let's do a look at part three. We'll take a quick break here, can't we? Okay? Because there's a few more things I want to ask you both anyway. So let's wrap up here, guys. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Beth. Everyone wondering, we're going to go back with a quick part three here, but there's something I want to play a quick game with Beth and Amanda. And I know we've only got about 10 minutes left of this set recording and this part two. So we can take our time a bit more, okay? So see you all. Two shakes.
Not the TV guide.
Not the TV guy.